My name is Mike Alton, and I'm the CMO for SiteCell. I'm also a content marketing practitioner, which is just a fancy way of saying that I like to test and write about all aspects of content marketing. I do that over at thesocialmediahat.com. Now, how would I explain what Tailwind Tribes are to someone who hadn't heard of them? Well, to me, Tailwind Tribes are an opportunity for you to connect with other bloggers and content creators who have a similar audience to you, but not the same audience. That's important because the idea behind joining tribes of fellow bloggers is that you'll share each other's pins and content. When they have new content, you'll see it and have an opportunity to share it with your audience. And they'll do the same for you. Which means that the articles you write will get shared with a larger, interested, and targeted audience. Reciprocal sharing of content to various social networks has been around for years, with plenty of tools and sites that try to facilitate the activity. The flaw, though, in most every implementation elsewhere has been the randomness of the participants and resulting shares. It's one thing if someone who blogs about Pinterest shares one of my Pinterest articles, as I assume their audience is naturally interested in Pinterest and will be interested in my content. It's something else entirely if someone who blogs about, say, celebrities shares my stuff. There's just no connection, and therefore far less likelihood for a successful pin. The most valuable thing that I get from Tailwind Tribes is the opportunity to get my content in front of other bloggers and content creators in my niche. Look, it's up to them whether they share it, and it's up to their audience whether they click through and read the article. But all of that starts when you have a system in place that facilitates the initial exposure. How else does Tailwind Tribes help me? Well, it's definitely with the surfacing of other content and pins that I can share. I'm in about 10 tribes with dozens and dozens of other similar content creators in those tribes, which means that at any point, there are anywhere from dozens to hundreds of pins from my tribe mates waiting for me to queue them up. This results in plenty of great pins to keep my account active and my audience engaged, as well as leveraging Tailwind's integrated schedule queue so that activity gets spread out accordingly. My favorite part of the Tailwind Tribes experience is probably how easy it is to submit new pins to tribes. I use the Chrome extension, so whenever I have a new piece of content, I simply hit the button, select the pinnable image, and then add it to all of my relevant tribes. And that's just one extra step in the midst of my normal process for queuing up pins over time to group boards. So it adds just seconds to my overall process. What's the first word that comes to mind when I think of Tailwind Tribes? It has to be effective. I have an extensive list of things that I do each and every time that I publish a new piece of content. It's critical to me that I get that content in front of as many people as I can so that they have an opportunity to see it and decide for themselves if they're interested in reading and potentially sharing it. Few tactics in my promotional checklist are as effective as Tailwind Tribes. What kind of impact has Tailwind Tribes had on my Pinterest account? Well, the ease at which Tribes helps me keep my account active can't be understated. Prior to Tribes, I would spend a lot of time each week or month sourcing content from Feedly and other places, trying to keep my queue filled for the immediate future. And when you're trying to maintain an active level of 20 plus pins per day, that's a challenge. On top of that, when sourcing pins from other places, you don't immediately know if they even have a pinnable image. Many of the leading publications like Inc. or Forbes don't include tall images, if any image at all, which means I either have to create a tall image or just, skip the piece entirely. Tailwind Tribes completely eliminates that issue since every suggested piece of content is 100% pinnable. What kind of impact has Tailwind Tribes had on my blog traffic? Well, it's been fantastic. Before Tribes came along, I was all but done with Pinterest, honestly. Due to my own terrible imagery, my pins were performing extremely poorly. But with Tribes in place, combined with a more deliberate effort on my part to create good, tall images, the network has seen a resurgence for me. I'm getting more and more organic traffic each and every day. What kind of impact has Tailwind Tribes had on my bottom line or income? Well, this is the fun part. All of the new traffic is resulting in measurable gains in subscribers, leads, and affiliate sales. Now, it becomes a complex system at that point, which means it's important to have all the pieces in place and working in harmony, of which Tribes are now an important part. For instance, the pins that are driving traffic, thanks to TribeMate shares, need to lead to content and offers that appeal to that audience. For a long time, my primary offer was too off-target to be wildly effective. So I recently created an entirely new offer, my Facebook Survival Kit, I call it. And it's now much more in line with what my target audience and actual website traffic is interested in. So it's converting at 4 times the rate that my old offer was. This results in more email subscribers, which means more people seeing my future blog posts and more people going through my automated messages. And because I've refined and added to my email sequences, more of my email subscribers are taking advantage of paid offers that I'm earning commission off of. All that success is hinged on increased targeted traffic. Are shares by TribeMates better in any way than the general shares that I might get? Well, definitely. Like I mentioned earlier, when general followers and Pinterest users share my content, it's a mixed bag as to what they're writing about and why their audience may be following them. I might reach people who are actually interested in blogging and social media, but I might be reaching people who are more interested in recipes or crafts or the latest developments in pet hair removal. I just don't know. But when a TribeMate like Louise Myers shares my content, I know that her audience is made up of a far higher, exponentially higher percentage of people who are genuinely interested in blogging and social media topics and information. Repins from her and other TribeMates have a greater potential for click-throughs. How has Tailwind Tribes made my life easier? Definitely content curation is now a piece of cake. I tend to check my tribes once a week, and there are now hundreds of pins waiting for me to check out and queue up. And even that gets easier and easier as I get to know, like, and trust fellow TribeMates. When I see a pin from Elisa Meredith or Jeff C., I don't have to think about whether it's good stuff or spend time reviewing the article. I can simply queue it up for the appropriate board. Now, for TribeMates whom I don't know well, it's an opportunity for me to get to know them and potentially find some really great content along the way. Like Karina Jane. She offers great organizational and time management tips. Her content's a fantastic supplement to the posts I'm creating and sharing elsewhere. And I found her thanks to a tribe that I'm in. Why is it important for marketers or bloggers to collaborate with others? Well, collaboration is one of my favorite and more important tactics for successful content marketing. The work itself benefits through this combined thought, effort, and reach that collaboration brings. But more important than that is the relationship building that comes as a natural byproduct of collaboration. You see, when Jeff and I work on a project together, we're helping each other at the same time as we're helping our respective audiences. And of course, we're introducing each other to those audiences. But we're also spending time together and working towards a common purpose, which results in a positive shared experience. Those experiences over time help to build incredibly strong relationships and pave the way for even bigger and better projects in the future. How does Tailwind Tribes help me to collaborate with others? Well, that goes back to the opportunity Tribes offer for you to meet and read new bloggers and influencers in your niche, people you didn't know previously and might never have met otherwise. The reality is that most of us are creating content in a niche and industry that's filled with other bloggers and content creators. Even if we've chosen a particularly narrow topic, there are still tremendous numbers of complementary topics and writers, and we can't possibly know them all. In fact, the longer we're in our industry, I would argue that it becomes even harder to break out and meet new people. We simply don't have the time to keep up with all of our existing friends and colleagues and meet new ones on top of that. So, Tribes helps to give that focus and surface interesting new connections whom we might collaborate with in the future. What's my favorite thing about the community of people that I've connected with in Tailwind Tribes? I'd have to say the eagerness to share. Everyone is in these tribes to bring visibility to their own content, of course. But it's more than that. They understand that a tribe succeeds by working together, and that there's no place for people who aren't interested in helping others. And of course, Tailwind Tribes makes it incredibly easy to help your tribe mates. Just make sure that you're sharing and giving, and then you're receiving. How does it feel to be part of a great Tailwind tribe? It's a real privilege. As I mentioned earlier, I've used and do belong to other reciprocal sharing systems. It's always a challenge to create a great atmosphere. Many of these other systems have become overwhelmed with cheap traffic seekers who have no interest in community or collaboration. To them, it's just about getting the maximum number of clicks for the least amount of work. Now, I don't know if it's the Tailwind community of users or the way that Tribes has been implemented, but that's far less of an issue here. What kinds of benefits would a newbie blogger be able to get out of Tribes? Well, easily, that's the incredible amount of exposure. If social media is the great equalizer between small businesses and large businesses, Tribes helps level the playing field in the same way for new versus experienced bloggers. When I'm looking at my tribe feeds, I don't see whether someone's new or experienced. I just see interesting, relevant pins. Now, sure, if someone's new to the game and I'm not familiar with their work, it won't be an automatic pin on my part. But if the topic is compelling, I'll take a look and I just might share it. To have your content shared by someone with a large, established following is gold to new bloggers and to old bloggers too. How do transparent share scores improve the Tailwind Tribes experience? This, I think, may be one of the reasons the Tailwind Tribes experience is better than other reciprocal sharing networks. Even other places that make that kind of historical sharing and participation information known may not do it as well or as visibly. Within Tailwind, I can instantly see how I'm doing compared to others in the tribe. How are the analytics in the dashboard and in Tailwind Tribes summary emails helpful? Well, honestly, the most important data is referral traffic from Pinterest and what that traffic does on my website, like subscribing. However, what the summary emails do exceedingly well for me is remind me of how important and effective tribes are. When I see how the hundreds of pins that I've had repinned have reached millions of Pinterest users, that's inspiring. If I had a friend who was skeptical of tribes, the first thing I would point out right from the start is that this is one of the easiest promotional tactics you could find to test. It's not like we're talking about creating 20-minute videos and uploading them to a Facebook page 3 times a week. This is just taking the time to join a few tribes, cue some other people's pins, and share some pins of your own. Very, very low barrier to entry. But then I'd start talking about the potential to connect with genuine influencers in their niche through a tribe, and how great it would be, not just if that influencer shared their content, but if they actually made an impression on that influencer. A few months ago, I got to hear Marcus Sheridan speak, one of the preeminent experts on content marketing, and he was brilliant. Afterwards, we found ourselves standing together in the hallway, and he immediately introduced me to his friend, and he described how good my content was and how much he enjoyed my writing. Once I got over the shock and impact of what he was saying, it dawned on me what a tremendous opportunity it was for me to have gotten my work in front of someone like Marcus. That's not the kind of thing that happens every day. So bloggers would do well to be mindful of the potential a system like Tribes offers. Sometimes all you need to turn the corner is one influencer, one read, one share, and then everything changes.